Welcome to Resilience Plus Rise, the podcast where resilience is not just a concept, but it's a lived experience. I'm your host, Thomas Carrier, a resilience coach, a ultramarathoner, and a relentless believer in the human spirit's ability to rise. This podcast is a companion to my book, Resilience Plus Rise 26.2 Transformative Miles to Unleash Your Marathon of Life Mindset. Each episode is raw, unfiltered dive into the stories of those who have faced life's hardest battles and emerged stronger. For me, today's guest, she's a transformative wellness and a leadership coach. She's also a TEDx speaker, a three-time author who empowers women and leaders to reclaim their energy, resilience, and purpose, especially through life's hardest season. Jessica Moyer. She's the author of Triumph Through Tears, Finding Hope and Purpose Through Loss. She's a certified Zig Ziglar legacy coach, a John Maxwell coach trainer, and a ACE personal trainer. She has helped thousands of women transform their lives over the past 12 years. Before I can go on and on about Jessica, let's just dive into the conversation. Jessica, welcome to Resilience Plus Rise, the podcast.
Thank you, Thomas. I'm so honored to be here today with you.
So, there is a lot of credentials which is there behind you. And I've gone through some of the testimonies, I've gone through some of your posts, etc. It says a lot. But what I have always believed is that a purpose which you are driving towards, something that you believe so strongly about, and which is helping a lot or creating a clarity to a lot of people, women, it has to come from something deep within. So, Jessica, I would love to say, who are you?
Ooh, who am I? Well, I like to think of myself as a person of resilience. That's what we're talking
Okay.
about today. And when you grow up, Thomas, you think that life's going to be a certain way, and you have all these big hopes and dreams as a child. And sometimes the path that you think is going to be for you isn't always the path. So God has other plans.
Okay.
Um, First and foremost, I am a wife to my husband of 28 years almost, Jason, and a mom to four children. And I am a person who is very passionate about supporting others through their journey of health, wellness, and finding purpose through loss and grief. So I like to think of myself as, a warrior of wellness and hope. And
Hmm,
my story is one of resilience. So I think that's why we connected here.
beautiful. Something which got my attention was hope and grief. So, what's the story over there? Or what has been the pain that has driven you, if you're allowed to say that, to the person that you are?
Yeah, I mean, that's the title of my book is Finding Hope and Purpose Through Loss. And, as when you grow up and you think all these things are great things are going to happen for you, and I always wanted a big family. um, Plans were different for me. My firstborn was premature by 9 weeks. I was very young at the time. My husband was in school. And so I started off with just a lot of trauma at the age of 25. Um, my daughter was in the NICU for a month, and bringing her home and being a first time mom and very scared. I thought, whew, I got through that. Right. And then it just got harder for me. Our second born child, Stephen, I noticed things weren't very normal with him, even though I didn't have much to compare it to because Isabel was in the NICU for a month. I just, in my mom heart and in my gut, I always tell people to follow their gut, that something wasn't right with Steven. Even in my pregnancy, I felt a little off. I took him to the doctor a few times in the early months of his birth, and they kept assuring me he was fine, that he was just a slow baby. And at the age of 4 months, I'll never forget, it was September 25th, 2001, 2 weeks after September 11th. And I'll never forget because my husband was serving in the Army. Um, and we sat in Bethesda Naval Hospital, and I was told on the spot that Stephen had a genetic disease called spinal muscular atrophy, or Wernian-Hoffman's, which is what they use first. And I was like, I can't even pronounce that. But right away, I thought, you know what? I can handle a child who has disabilities. But within the next breath, the doctor told me that it was terminal and that Stephen would not celebrate his first birthday, most likely.
Okay.
So that's when my world crashed. That was, a breaking point for any parent that would receive news like that. It was heavy. It was real heavy at the time.
Hmm. And then what happened?
So, we the doctor said take him home and love him. Well, what was my option, right? And I that's exactly what we did. I had Isabel at home. And again, my husband was in the military at the time. I was pretty isolated. I didn't know many people. We had just moved to Maryland at the time. And fortunately, I had family that was very supportive. We did palliative care for our son. We had a hospice. And it was a 5 months of a lot of things as a parent you never want to have to do for your child. But God gives you the strength to get through tough times. And fortunately, I had the strength along with people in my life that were there to support me. And Stephen passed away at the age of 9 months. He earned his angel wings. And so that was, you know, the worst time in my life. And a lot of people don't know, but the day after his funeral, I was pregnant and I miscarried, probably from a lot of trauma. And then I got pregnant again, and unfortunately the baby was positive for SMA because it's a neuromuscular disease. And we opted to terminate the pregnancy at that time because we had just lost a son to this awful disease. And if people don't know what SMA is, it's a neuromuscular disease that robs babies of their voluntary movement. And so kind of like Lou Gehrig's, but in infants. And so it was a very devastating disease. It wasn't one that you could just live with. And so I had had this period of, gosh, almost a year of loss. It was just a lot. And so, I just kept putting one foot in front of the other. I had a daughter who needed me. And yeah, it was a rough start to an early, we were married young, and it was just a really rough time in our life.
And over here, at times, when people forget about people, when I'm hearing the story, one of the thought that comes to my mind is Stephen. He was so blessed and lucky to give that in that 5 months the love which was supposed to be put across the next few decades was all encompassed specifically for him. Maybe that's the way it was supposed to be put across, that he just came in for that love and he got what he wanted. And then he said, okay, I'm good. But God bless you. Just God
Mhm.
bless you. And but you got two other kids.
Yes, after Stephen passed and went through that tumultuous time of pregnancies, I had Blaze and Jake. So yes, I have three living children who are truly the joy of my life, and I'm so proud of them. Ironically, when I wrote my book, none of them, well, the boys didn't know him, and Isabel probably didn't remember him, but I asked them to write a little segment in my book, and it's so beautiful what they wrote, especially not knowing him. And so
Hmm.
that's really meaningful. Although I will say, I wrote the book, here it is. Um, my kids still haven't read it because they say it's just too hard. But part of the reason I wrote it was as a legacy so they understood, an early journey for me. And, when we go through loss and grief, it shapes us a certain way and it creates a new life for us. And it's learning how to navigate this world where it's not the way you thought it would be. And that's life for many of us, right? And so I wrote that partly for them so they could understand my certain little hangups when they were younger. So someday they'll read it.
When the time is right, it will
Yeah,
happen. And until then, all we can say is, well, we have done our part. Now it's for them to take it on.
that's right. That's right.
So, first and foremost, hats off to the challenges that you've gone through. And I've always said is that from our deepest of pain comes our deepest of purpose. In my podcast or as a resilience coach, I have met many people who have, especially from the resilience point of view, who have risen above. And then there are people who have gone through it, but at times, so at some point of time, they still carry a badge of a victim or a martyr because that's where their comfort zone is. That's what they believe their existence is. That's what they believe their label is. And they feel good when people they come with a sense of grief towards them and they feel I've got my validation. But Jess, you differed. You said that's not what I want. How and why?
Well, I truly believe that everyone has a cross to bear in life. We're all going to go through something. It's not going to be the same, and we all deal with it differently. So I guess I was raised too that just to be strong, and I had a great support network. And part of what we did, and I think that gave me purpose, was we started a nonprofit in memory of our son. And so we started to raise money for funding for a cure, which now there are several treatments for SMA. We started working with other families that were going to face the same diagnosis that Stephen did. I spoke at the NIH to advocate for funding. And so I really dove deep into, like, there's a reason this happened. I may never know, but I have to do something with all this energy. It could go negative or it could go positive. And so I chose to band together with my family and my close friends, and we started this nonprofit. And so that really gave me purpose to get through the days, especially in the beginning. And we did that for many years where we would do a lot of different nonprofit events. And I know your book is about a marathon. I ran 9 marathons in memory of my son. And so if
So
you can take something and let that propel you to do something better for you or for someone else, then it makes it easier to understand or to move through the grief or loss or whatever challenges it is when you make it bigger than yourself.
that's so beautifully said. In fact, today I was just writing a comment to on my LinkedIn because I this August I had signed up for Kids Against Cancer. This was a month for me to cycle around, and but before July 12th, I did not have sorry July 15th, I did not have a cycle. I did not know really how to balance a cycle because I had learned cycling maybe when I was way decades before. But you touched it on the point is that when you have a purpose which is bigger than you or bigger than us, the universe conspires to make it a success. Today, I've got the goal was something very small, but I've reached overtaken that goal. Plus, I've got the fundings. I know for me, I took on this challenge saying that even if it's I can get paper clips for the space that they call this organization, so be it.
Oh,
So, just sorry, when I think about your element that you started working in this particular area, you would have met a lot of families, a lot of people going through their own sense of grief, trauma. You had a support system, but what would you tell to those people who do not have a support system? What about them? Because they may be now this conversation is not just confined to North America. It may be whether it's in North America also, but there may be families which may be just such a nuclear family, such a small family that they may not have a support system. They may not know how to turn. But as a coach, as an advocate, what would you say that they can get themselves more stronger?
Thomas, that's a great question. And I get that often because people aren't as fortunate as me. But I will say there is always a support system if you seek it out. It could
Hmm.
be me or you. I mean, if someone reaches out to me and they need help, I'm not turning my back, right? If I can't help you, I will find someone that can. And so I think number one, taking the step to say, I need help. I was actually just writing something about this today when I was pregnant with Blaze and my husband had gotten orders to deploy over to Afghanistan. And then I had Blaze in New Jersey, and I went through a very, very dark time of postpartum and anger that my husband wasn't there and trying to navigate like a new baby and feeling like he was going to pass. I was scared all the time. I became suicidal and I had to reach out for help. And so the point is to say, I need help. If there's
Mm,
nothing to be ashamed about. And that's what I was writing, that shame was truly strength to say, I need help. I just can't do this alone. But oftentimes as humans, we're embarrassed by that. And I think it's so important, even if you're alone and you feel isolated, you have to put yourself out there to just say, I need someone. And so there is a community if you seek it out, but you have to be willing to put yourself out there to say it. So that's number one. Number two is I created something called the 5G mindset. And I
mm,
realized this over the time, like these were the gifts that were God given that don't cost me anything, that each day, if I practiced, it would put me in a better mental framework or mindset. And so number one is gratitude. Like even in the darkest times when Stephen was, on oxygen or we had to give him a feeding tube, finding those little glimpses of what I was grateful for, whether it was my father-in-law visiting or the hospice nurse came when I needed her, you know, practicing gratitude daily, generosity, acts of service and kindness, sending a text to someone, well, like just small acts of kindness can go such a long way in helping someone else, but also helping yourself. Growth, putting yourself out there to learn something new each day, whether it's something simple as a crossword puzzle or listening to a podcast. Grit, which is resilience, is that I have a chapter in my book on resilience. Like you have to be a rubber band, like you have to give and take. We might snap sometimes, but there's another one next to you then.
sure.
And then grace. And that's just practicing forgiveness, knowing there's imperfection, um, and having faith. And so using those 5Gs have really helped me. And anyone can do that every day. So that's something that I talked about in my book as well.
Wow, that is huge. The 5Gs. I mean, I've heard about the different ways, but then when you get it together, that is so powerful. It creates such a beautiful mindset. So let me get it. You got gratitude, you got generosity, you got grace was the last one. You got the grit, and what is the
Growth.
what, growth?
Yeah.
Fantastic. This is fantastic. Apart from this, I mean, it encompasses that. Actually, there was one statement which you mentioned is that forgiveness, and that also comes with vulnerability. In our society, a lot of times we are scared to show that we are weak. We are scared to show that we want help because again we are at times tuned to we can either complain or criticize or compare. That's the three C's of the pillars which a lot of humanity is standing on, which is totally wrong. But it takes strength, as even Brené Brown says, is that it takes strength to show your vulnerability as well as to forgive somebody. Weak people have problems on that. So when you got these anchors, what happened to Jessica, the mother, the wife, the human?
Yeah, I think many of us live in survival mode after
Yes.
trauma or despair or disappointment or change. And, we can continue to live that life of just, trudging along and not truly enjoying life, what all that the beauty it has to offer. And so I got to the point that I was tired of just living in survival mode. I was doing all the mom things, but I felt like I wasn't truly like embracing what life had to
Mhm.
offer. And so that's when I really started to pour into myself and do self development. When I became a Ziegler coach, I worked in the community for many years in the fitness and wellness industry. And so then I got the courage to say, you know what, I'm going to start my own gym. And I was able to help. Thank you. I was able to help many women, not just for their physical health, because it starts here.
Of
And if
course.
we can't get our mental health well, and realize that we're not alone, then our bodies aren't going to respond well, whether it's sickness, obesity, disease, whatever it may be. We must be mentally sound first. And so I really started to pour into myself to be able to help others.
Fantastic. So if I would ask, yes, we got the 5 Gs, we got to understand, but then breaking it down to something which is simple. I'm not asking for advice, but if there are suggestions for people who have a inner grit, circumstances, challenges, all these particular has to happen in life. It will happen in some way or the other. And of course, you got a choice of just existing through life or living life. What would be few suggestions that comes to your mind that you want to tell the listeners about living life? Like you
Yeah.
have gone through challenges, but today you have turned this trauma to triumph. Whether you're creating a book or a space for women or a gym, a development of both mental as well as physical fortitude. What's your take on that?
Yeah. I mean, we all have a choice every day in how we live, and we're all going to die. And so we have a choice on how we're going to live our dash. And again, for many years, I did live in that survival mode and getting by. But it truly is a choice on what you want out of life and living into your purpose, because we all have one. It's all going to be different, and it comes from different things in life. And so I think it's like I said, it's coming down to the choice of how you want to carry on with your life. What do you want to get out of life?
Hmm.
Are you present with the ones that love you? I work with leaders, and I always say, like, if you're not taking care of your body, how are you going to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor down the road if you're just working all the time? And then what happens when you lose your job? Because that can happen too. We're all replaceable. And
Sure.
that can pull the rug out from under you. So if you don't have a good foundation of health, then what's the point of working so hard? And that was my story with my father. I did a
Oh,
TEDx, and it was how my son and my dad met in heaven, and Stephen basically lecturing my dad on why didn't you take better care of yourself. My dad was a family physician in New Jersey, and me and my siblings watched him. He was our hero, but we watched him care for everyone else. And then,
exact.
yep, and there's very little left for him.
How
So,
do you pour from to others when your own cup is empty?
yep, exactly.
You lose.
Well, I
So,
think of like
guys,
when you go into battle, you have
hmm
to put your vest on first, right? You got to
sure,
put your all your stuff on first, or you're being taken out. And so, in order to protect others, you must protect yourself first.
wonderful. Wow. So, guys, I will be putting out Jess's contact information, her TED Talks, her website, etc. in the comments below. Do have a look onto it because though our conversation is just half an hour, I know there is a lot of nuggets of value. It's not just knowledge, but of value when you dig deep. Reach out to her, connect with her. Perhaps she may be the straw that you're looking out for. Just be mindful of time, Jess. What are the now you're on this particular journey? What are the new projects that you have been working on, or what's happening around that you could tell the listeners about?
Yeah, so I just rebranded. It's therealwellness.net is my new website, and I'm working with leaders, small companies, and also women in finding, finding that healthy spot. Like, what is it that they need to work on to live into better health, to have longevity, to do the things they want to do in life? Everything I do is with a purpose, because I want to, there's things we can't control,
Hmm.
but if I'm showing up for myself and taking care of myself, I'm hopefully going to be able to, run around with my grandkids. And so whatever that life looks like for people, my goal is to get them there through my real framework. So they can find me therealwellness.net.
Wow. Okay. So that's actually, again, say is that this time what we had was just so short. But guys, here what we just saw was something amazing, where she spoke about transforming your own self. She gave a beautiful element of the 5Gs. In this conversation, we have seen that she's passionate about God, running, yes, fitness, community, and helping women to identify and live their purpose. As she and I totally believe it's about the healthy lifestyle. Do contact Jessica for further details. So, just I will take this particular time to say thank you so very much for your space and time. It has been just a short but a beautiful journey. And I hope to connect with you again, because I know there would be messages which would be coming to me about people wanting to talk more, because we have just taken a small snapshot of what you have to offer. But I'm very much aware that there is a lot more this conversation could go into. So with this thing, I say thank you so very much from the deep part of my heart.
Thank you so much, Thomas. This was wonderful.
Sorry, I also forgot. Is there something you would want to say at the end to the listeners? Any
No,
last takeaway?
yeah. I mean, to me, the biggest thing is if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't be there for others. And so really taking a good look at your life to say, what can I do better on so that I am here to be with the ones I love?
Beautiful. My when I sign my book, I usually say, always be better than yesterday.
Yes.
So it encompasses a lot. But that's a beautiful one. Thank you, Jess. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Thomas.